Welcome, folks, to the Freedom Fighters Talk Show, Cutting Through the Darkness. I'm your talk host, Pastor Chris Bean, and today we're going to be discussing what the enemy has stolen from you.
From coast to coast and worldwide on the internet via satellite, this is Luke 418 Radio Network.
You tuned into Luke 418 Radio Talk Show, the leading cutting edge of Christian radio. Exposing the works of darkness and declaring a life of righteousness.
You guys rock! Rock and roll.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Freedom Fighters Talk Show here on the Luke 418 Radio Show. Thanks for joining us again. We got an exciting episode here. What has the enemy stolen from you? What has the enemy stolen from you? Let's start off with just some easy stuff. We'll throw a couple soft pitches here. Okay, and I look at myself and I say, what has been stolen from me? Well, it's easy for me to look back and think, well, you know, I've had my house broken into. For real, every house I've lived at, we've been robbed. My cars have been robbed. Stuff have been taken out of my cars. I've had stuff stolen out of my barn, my garage. People in general, there's a lot of thieves going on. And the old saying that locks keep honest people honest. And I find myself locking my vehicles all the time, even if I pull up somewhere and I just go inside for just a minute, I lock the door because there's always somebody that wants to steal. And sometimes it's people that you know. Sometimes it's your family, it's your friends. And we probably all have friends that you know if they're coming over, you lock everything up. You don't leave anything out. Or you make sure that there's nothing in your car that they can see. I've had one friend that I had to count all the change in my car. You know what? If he'd been in my car, I knew I'd be missing change. It just was something petty like that. But there's some people, though, that they're just constantly, they'll steal anything that ain't nailed down. And I remember the first time I had my house broken into, I came home, and thankfully I was glad that I came home and not my wife. And I noticed that one of the glass panes had been busted out of our door, and the house had been entered, and called the police, and they came in and went through, and they had stole several items out of our house. And that night, my wife went and stayed at her mother's house, and I slept at home that night. And, I couldn't sleep all night. I kept waking up. Every little noise that happened, I'm jumping up, looking around. What is going on? Well, when you start getting stole from, sometimes a thing called fear sets in as well. And I got to looking, what other things have been stolen from me? Well, I've had several things stolen out of my vehicles. I've had my office broken into, and they stole our petty cash and a couple pocket knives and a couple things out of my drawer, and done more damage than anything. The glass window that they broke out costed more to fix than everything that they stole. So what did I do differently? What did we do differently once we know there's a problem? Well, at my home and my office and my vehicles, they all have alarms. Well, alarms help, but they don't always stop everything. And put up surveillance cameras. Well, that helps. And last year, the police were able to use some of our video to make an arrest of someone who attempted to break into one of the businesses that we own. So these things help to curb that theft. But we've had strong arm robberies. We've had other things where people have tried to steal things, and I got to thinking about it. What is that really the biggest concern in our life? We guard our cars, we guard our possessions, and we put such a great value on our physical possessions. But yet we're getting robbed of something much greater than any of our physical possessions. And yet we sit back and do nothing about it. We may on our home, we may have video surveillance. We've got alarms on it. We've got motion sensors. Inside the house, we may still have a safe or a vault or some kind of secret hiding space that we hide things and we protect our physical possessions. But today, I'm here to talk to you about things that have been stolen from you that are much more important than anything in your house, anything in your car, including your car, anything in your garage. There's things that are more important than these physical possessions. And you have been stolen from long enough. And it is time to step up and take back what the enemy has stolen from you. Why does Satan want to steal from you? Well, I'm going to read a verse here. John, the book of John, chapter 10, verse 10. It says, "A thief cometh not but to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that you may have life and that they might have it more abundantly." Now, many people want to go and throw kill first. Kill. They want to say kill, steal, and destroy. Well, Jesus said steal and to kill and to destroy. Satan comes to steal from you first. He comes to steal your joy. He's come to steal your happiness. He's come to steal your contentment. As he begins to steal from you, he begins the process of trying to kill you spiritually, emotionally, and physically. But first, he must come and steal from you. Steal from you. Then he begins the process of trying to kill and destroy. And is he trying to destroy you? No. He wants to destroy everything around you. He wants to destroy your whole family. He wants to destroy your seeds. He wants to destroy your job. He wants to destroy everyone you work with. That is his thing that he does. He is out to destroy. But he understands that he can't destroy first. Before he destroys, he's got to kill people off. Before he kills them off, he has to steal from them. He has to steal to begin the process of breaking you down. And I thought, Lord, what are some of the ways that we are stolen from? Well, let's start with the physical. Physically, there are things that happen or have happened to some of us and some of you out there that began the process of stealing from you. And some of these processes came when you weren't even old enough to talk, before you even had full understanding of what was going on. A huge problem in America and even the world is child molestation. Children being sexually abused at a young age. And I read a statistic that said that the average child that was molested, that it starts at about 18 months old. And to me, I cannot comprehend that statement. I can't comprehend an 18-month-old and why anyone would abuse them. But keep in mind, we're facing the devil. We are fighting Satan. And if Satan can step in at any way and cause destruction, he is going to do it. And if he can go and manipulate someone to go and abuse a small child, he will do it, even if the child is younger than that. And even as they grow up, to be sexually molested, even at an older age, whether it be 5 or 6 or 9 or 12, maybe even 15. You know, it happens. Molestation is a problem, and you know multiple people that have been molested if you've not been molested yourself. And another problem that goes unspoken about, we want to focus on women when it comes to molestation. But I'm here to tell you, as I begin to get into deliverance ministry, that I find more and more men that were molested as small children or before they became a teenager, they were molested. But the problem is, as men, we're taught to bottle all that up. Don't talk about it. Be a man. And we think that we are showing weakness and that we're some kind of sissy if we go and talk about the fact of being molested as a child. But all we've done is allow this generational thing to continue over and over again. And men have not dealt with the pain that it has been caused in them. It's made them question their sexuality. It's made them go and question father figures in their lives. It's made them question God. God, how could you let this happen to me? And it's caused all this pain and resentment to build up, and it's not been let out. And don't get me wrong, I'm taking nothing back from all of the women out there that have been molested. I'm just glad that when women come forward, they're received a lot better than if a man comes forward and admits to being molested. What happened to both of you? Whether you're a man or a woman, if you were sexually molested, you were stolen from. You were stolen from. Whether it was full penetration and your virginity was stolen, or whether it was someone just simply copying their own pleasures, you were still violated and you were stolen from. And the emotional scars from that theft haunt you even till today. You have those. Some of you have those memories that go on constantly. There's things that trigger those memories. Sometimes you might wake up in the middle of the night and you might be reliving some of those attacks and some of that you went through. Some of you that were small children when it happened, you may not even have a memory of what happened, but yet there's things in your life that you cannot understand because you were stolen from and it's not made sense to you. Some of you were abused. You were physically abused. Some of you were, well, here's a story that my father told me, that one of the kids in his neighborhood was on the tractor and he was out plowing and his line got off and his row was off, and his father actually picked up a brick and threw it and hit him in the head and knocked him off the tractor. Folks, some of you grew up in homes just like that. Just like that. You walked on eggshells because you never knew when Dad was going to come home drunk or when Dad was going to fly off the handle. Some of you didn't know when Mom was going to fly off the handle and begin smacking and beating with whatever they could find, and how many wooden spoons were broke, or some of you got razor straps, and some of you may still have scars from some of that. Some of you literally got punched and literally beat up and watched your mother get beat up, brutally beat. What was going on? The enemy was stealing. He was stealing because he wanted to set up the course to kill and to destroy. Destroy. So there's a lot of physical abuse that the enemy has come and he's stolen from you. He has stolen the happiness of your childhood. He has stolen the joy because he's convinced someone, he's used someone to come and perpetrate against you emotionally. Emotionally, folks, and this is the biggest problem that I have ran into is the emotional abuse and the things that have been stolen from so many of you emotionally. Some of you grew up in homes that you were never enough. No matter what you done, it was never good enough. You were always measured to a different standard. And no matter what happened, all you wanted was Dad or Mom to say, "I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you." Some of you have never heard your parents say the words, "I'm proud of you." I'm going to tell you what, I probably would have happily took a beating to be able to hear the words, "I'm proud of you," if I had never heard them. If nobody ever shared that with me, I tell you what, the physical abuse, getting beat on, is one thing. The emotional abuse, I tell you, it's a different level. And I'm not taking anything against emotional or a physical abuse, because nobody should have to go through that. Some of you went through both. You went through the emotional abuse and the physical abuse. And the biggest problem is on the emotion side, where so many of you, I think, have been stolen from, is abandonment. People in your life have abandoned you. They abandon you. Sometimes it was even before birth, while you were in your mother's womb, a father abandoned you. A family member abandoned you. And you were unwanted. There are so many unwanted pregnancies in America today that weren't planned. We have teenagers and young adults and kids that they think there's no consequences to sex. And then one of them gets pregnant. And there's conversations about abortion or, and nothing's worse than telling the kid they were never wanted. You're a mistake. You were never wanted. Some of you might have known a parent for a while, and then that parent left. They just took off. I've dealt with people that they don't know if they've ever really met their real parent or not. My grandfather, his father left him before he was a year old. He had no memory of his biological father. Thankfully, my great-grandmother married a great guy, and he raised my grandpa just like his own and loved him just like his own. So he still grew up with a father figure, but not his biological father. Fast forward about 20, he was about 19, 20, something like that. He met his father for the first time on the battlefield of Korea. And even then, his father did not worry about salvaging any kind of relationship with him. And I could only imagine, my grandfather never really talked about that much, but there was always that part of his heart that ached and hurt because his dad never wanted him. His dad never once held him, never once told him he loved him, never once cradled him in his arms and said, "You're my son. I love you. I'm proud of you." Even whenever he saw him in the military, instead of saying, "I'm proud of you, I'm sorry I wasn't there," he actually told him what he wasn't doing right and how he could be a better soldier. Very crushing. Very crushing. Might explain why my grandfather, whenever he was around his kids and his grandkids, was the most affectionate man I know. Hug, kiss. He'd kiss me on the lips even all the way up until I was probably 20 years old. I didn't care. He loved me. He wanted me to know that he loved me and just cherished me, and as well as my other brothers and my cousins. He understood abandonment. Many of you have been abandoned at one phase of your life or another. It may have been a parent that abandoned you. Some of you, it may have been a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend that abandoned you, and you felt crushed. And nothing's worse than a mom or a dad abandoning you, and those questions of, what did I do wrong? I counseled someone, and this person described how their parents left them at the grandparents' house and just left. And did not see them very few times for the next 4 or 5 years. And growing up with those questions of, what did I do? What did I do? Why was I not good enough? Why doesn't my mom and dad love me? Why doesn't my mom and dad want to spend time with me? That's very difficult to grow up with. We grow up with a false sense of what family is and what love is when we go through that. We have a hard time actually loving people. We have a hard time establishing those relationships because we've been stolen from. The enemy came and he stole from us. He stole that happiness. He stole that joy that we should have had as children. And now, whenever these people are older, they put up a wall because they don't want anybody to get close to them. They don't want anybody to come in and love them, because if they love them and they love them back, they think they're just going to leave them and hurt them again. They'd rather not love than experience that pain and that hurt again. So many people have been stolen from as children. Now, some of you have been stolen from as adults. Some of you have been raped. Some of you have been stolen by people that you love. They have physically stolen things from you. And it has caused an emotional pain and emotional hurt, and you feel rejected and abandoned because of the fact that they done these things to you. Some of you have had boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife has left you, abandoned you for somebody else, or just left you all the way around. And you think, why was I not enough? Why was I not enough? Why couldn't you just love me? Well, the devil wants to come and keep putting thoughts in your mind, because the devil wants to tell you it's your fault. You weren't good enough. You're just not lovable. Nobody wants you. That's the devil coming, because he's already stolen from you. Now he's coming to kill. He's coming to kill now. The truth is, that person may have left, may have had nothing to do with you. They're fighting their own battles. They're dealing with the devil themselves on their issues that have never been dealt with. You can only deal with you. You can try to help others, but at the end of the day, they got to want it. They've got to reach out to Jesus. They've got to want to be free. So let's focus on you. What's been stolen from you? What causes your heart to still ache? What causes your heart to just bleed emotionally? Some of you have been stolen from spiritually. Some of you, it's been pastors, it's been religious figures that you thought was truly chasing God. And come to find out they weren't. It was a business. It was a show. And they hurt you. And they can hurt you deep. Some of you have been stolen from the occult. You were looking for answers. You were looking for acceptance. And witchcraft may have been that thing that you looked at. Whether it's going to be Celtic, whether it's going to be white magic, black magic, well, whatever it's going to be, you've been stolen from. Sometimes you didn't even realize what you were getting into until you were already in it. You already went to the Wiccan ceremony, and oh my goodness, you're already in the middle of it. You have been stolen from. But you can take it back. You can take it back. I dealt with a person that when they were a very small child, a family member put them on an altar and dedicated them to Satan. They were stolen from. Spiritually given to a demon in a form of a wedding as a very small child. They were stolen from. The good news is, what do we do about it? We know theft goes on all the time. You know, when someone breaks into our house, we call the police. The police, they show up and they take pictures and, you know, they try to look for fingerprints, but only an idiot doesn't wear gloves or something anymore. So a lot of times they really don't have a whole lot to go on other than figuring out what was stolen and hoping those items turn up in a pawn shop or somewhere else like only an idiot would take it to sell. And other things, they may ask neighbors questions, but usually unless someone else gets involved and gives them a tip, there's so many crimes that go unsolved. So what do you do about your stuff that got stole? Well, if you had a car, if you had full coverage on it, you call your insurance. And they're going to run your credit report and look at your background check and go over your story and make sure you didn't have nothing to do with it. And then once they clear you, then they're going to go and, you know, write you a check minus your deductible, and you're, to the most part, restored. You're still going to cost you some money. You know, if somebody breaks into your house, you can turn it into your insurance. You still got to have a deductible. Maybe you didn't have insurance. Maybe, you know, you're just out. So what do we do about these other things that have been stolen from us? And tonight, what I want to focus on is those core items that have been stolen from us. That joy, that happiness, that peace that's been stolen from us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. They all go back to emotion. They all come back to emotional baggage that we have. They all come back to hurt and to pain that we have. And see, hurt and pain and joy don't go together. So we've got to get to that point to trade our ashes for joy. One of the most important things that you're going to have to look at is forgiveness. Forgiveness. You're going to have to come to that point. And some of this is done with the help of a deliverance counselor. But you're going to have to come to that point of forgiveness to be able to forgive that person that done this. And it can be one of the hardest things that you're going to do in your life. The devil wants to keep reminding you of the pain. He wants to encourage the rage. He wants to encourage the anger, the resentment. He wants to just build that wall up and build that fury up in you. Why? He already stole from you. Now he wants to kill you. He wants to kill you, take you out. I got several of my friends that have committed suicide, and I think, oh my goodness, you know, the enemy not only stole from them, but he literally killed them, took them out, and then brought destruction onto their family. And so many times I think, wow, if they would have just called me, if I would have just known, if I would have just called them, if I would have just could have talked to them. But on the same token, I can't talk to every one of them. I can't save everybody. I'm one person. We need an army. We need an army of people that understand the deliverance process. That when you see somebody, you can begin to talk to them and to minister to them. But the first step is going to be going back to the source of that pain and forgiving them. I ask you this, because some of you out there, you're under your breath. You're ready to shut this program off right now, because there's no way I'm forgiving that person. I'm here to tell you right now, it's not about that person. It's about you. It's not about them. It's about you. The fact that you refuse to forgive them allows that person to continue to attack you and to steal from you even now. Some of you, it might have been 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago you've been stolen from, and that pain still festers up greatly in you. And what I would challenge you to do is to begin the process of saying, Jesus, help me to forgive them. Help me to forgive them. And I had an experience in my life that, and I can't go into all the details. I'm not here to embarrass anybody in my family, but I always said, if anybody ever done anything, I'd just kill them. Well, be careful what you say, because that time in your life may come up. And then you have to make that decision. Am I going to fall to the flesh and follow through with that and live with that hate and that rage and that anger? Or am I going to be the man of God I claim to be? Folks, that's when you put it all on the line. That's when you put it all on the line. I've had to forgive some very mountain-sized things in my life and several people. But you know, I like being free a lot better than letting them continue to hurt me, continue to terrorize my life. Because I had to lay it down to Jesus and say, Jesus, help me. Forgive them. I've got to forgive them. And not only did I forgive them, but then I started praying for their salvation. That God would touch them. that God would heal them. God would restore them. Folks, a lot of people that have molested children, they were molested too. It doesn't make it right. I'm not making excuses for their actions. But I'm telling you, understand, many of those were molested also. We continue a pattern. These patterns go on and from generation to generation to generation. Because you're molested, does it make you a molester? No, certainly not. But there is a percentage that will be a molester if they don't address this hurt and this pain. And if they're not able to move forward. When we sit down and we go through inner healing, one of the things that I look for is I look for the sources of that pain and that hurt. And we're able to deal with those and begin the process to forgive and to give all that hurt and all that pain to Jesus and truly begin a process of healing. Some of you that are listening to this program, you need healed. You have so much pain bottled up in you. It's like taking a thing of soda and dropping some of those Mentos in it and putting a lid on it, and you see the pressure building and building, and you know, hey, this thing's going to blow at some point. Folks, it's time to get set free. It's time for you to start taking back what the enemy has stolen from you. Because so many of you were molested or physically abused, or maybe you were never good enough. Maybe you were abandoned by someone that loved you. Maybe you were spiritually used or attacked. Maybe there's a lot of different ways that you could have been abused. Some of you were just neglected. You're just neglected. Maybe your parents were both there, but neither one of them ever spent any time with you. They never loved on you. They never taught you anything. You were just there to be seen and not heard. I don't know. Some of you were bullied. Some of you were bullied to the point where it scars you today. Some of you don't even want to think about what happened to you in school. For some of you, school was the most miserable time of your life. Sometimes it was other kids. It might have been teachers, bus drivers. School was terrible. Folks, it's time for us to begin the process of healing. Begin the process of healing. Now, a lot of times, whenever we go and we experience these traumatic experiences, a lot of times your mind may very well create what's called an alter personality. Some of you have loss of time. You know, it might be 10 a.m. in the morning. Next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You have no idea what happened or what happened in those last 4 hours. Some of you have mood changes. Some of you, your eyes change colors depending on your so-called mood. In reality, what it is one of your other personalities coming up because something has triggered you or caused you some kind of pain or hurt or anxiety. One of the first things we do is, in inner healing, we begin to deal with them. I talk to these alter personalities. I go and I tell them about the love of Jesus and how Jesus wants to take their pain and their hurt and their sorrows and pray them through as they go and they give it all to Jesus. And Jesus begins the process of healing them on the inside. And watch those broken pieces of the mind be put back together. Some of you were robbed before you ever came out of the womb through generational curses. And that's another thing we address. We do curse breaking, which the big thing there is going to be generational curses, but also we're breaking soul ties, inappropriate soul ties that we have with others, maybe people that you've had sex with out of wedlock. We're going to break those soul ties. We're going to break any ties to any type of occult, break any ties to any type of secret societies. We're going to break off the spirit of murder, of lying, of lust. We're going to come against all the things of the enemy, the spirit of Jezebel and Ahab, and we're going to begin the process of breaking these curses. And while we're moving through this, we're getting forgiveness. We're letting go of the pain and the hurt, and we're beginning that cleansing process, and we're beginning to trade the sorrows for the joys of the Lord, and the peace of God starts coming in and begin to manifest inside you. And we begin to address any curses that you may have in your family line or even that you have created. And then at that point, what we're going to do is we're going to start a process called exorcism, and we're going to search and see if there's anything demonic there that we need to deal with. And this episode is not about exorcism per se, but just understanding that is part of the process. Not everyone has demons, but there's a lot that do, and we want to address that. But tonight I want to focus on, first of all, identify you've been stolen from. What has been stolen from you? If you do not walk around with a smile on your face all day long and a song in your heart, what is going on and why not? If you don't constantly every day sing songs of joy and praise, what are you fighting? Because we are to make a joyful noise unto the Lord. We are to make a sacrifice of praise unto God every day with thanksgiving in our hearts. But folks, so many of you out there have so much that you've never dealt with. I'm here tonight to bring it to your attention to say, hey, we need to deal with these things. Unfortunately, I can't go and meet with every one of you and begin this process with each and every one of you. Depending on where you are, there are other ministers out there that we can try to put you in contact with, depending on what parts of the country that you're in, and try to get you lined up with someone who can help you walk through this. If you're in the medical profession, a psychiatrist, they want to just give you drugs, psychotherapy drugs. They want to go and admit you into a psychiatric facility. They want to heavily medicate you, make you like a zombie. At the end of it, it has not helped one bit. Why? Because they've not addressed the root of the problem. Folks, that's what we're here about, freedom fighters. That's what the Luke 418 radio is all about. Getting down to the root of the problem. We're going to cut out that root ball, pull it all out, so these problems won't keep festering up in your life. Nothing's worse than having like a cyst, and you go and you pop it and you drain it out. And you think, woo, we're doing good. Well, 5 days later, that thing's all swollen and pussing and getting nasty again. Guess what? That's the way a lot of you are. You go to church, you get prayed for, and you leave church on Sunday morning thinking, wow, I feel really good. I got a breakthrough. And come by Tuesday, You're ready to kick the dog and cuss somebody out, and you don't even want to talk to anybody. Why? Why is that? Because all we've done is we've Band-Aided over it. We've Band-Aided over it. You know, we put our Neosporin on that place, and it looks like it healed up on the outside. But on the inside, oh, it's a war. Folks, one of the things I want to do whenever I minister to somebody, I just want to rip that thing wide open. Because if you know anything about a cyst, not only do you got to drain it, you got to get in there and you got to remove the cyst wall. Otherwise, it comes right back. So it's one thing to talk about this pain. It's another thing to deal with it. Folks, we have pain, we have sorrow, we have hurt, anguish, because the enemy has stolen from us. He has stolen from us because he wishes to kill us and destroy us and everything around us. Are you ready to stand up and say enough's enough? It's time to start taking this back. It's time to really deal with this inner pain. Some of you may not have direct access to a deliverance minister. I challenge you to start with the process of forgiveness. And if you can't forgive these people, here's what I want you to do. I want you to start praying, Dear Jesus, help me forgive, and then whoever that is that hurt you, help me to forgive them because I want to be free. You start praying that prayer. And then eventually you're going to start praying, thank you, Jesus, for helping me forgive that person. And you're going to be able to say, I forgive Johnny. I forgive whoever. John Doe. I forgive them. And that's going to start breaking that down. It's going to start breaking that wall down. You know, when we accept Jesus Christ into our heart, we accept Jesus to come in, and he starts giving us comfort. And he starts giving us peace and joy. But the problem is, when we accept him into our heart, he comes into our spirit. But it doesn't automatically wipe out all that past trauma. We still have to get to the point where we can forgive. We can forgive and then let Jesus go in there and cleanse us and put the joy of the Lord back in there where it belongs. You know, an interesting read. I know I'm running about out of time, but I want some of you need to go back and read 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 1 through 20. And this is whenever they came and they burned down Ziklag. And they stole the wives and the children of David and all of his fighting men. And they were so crushed. You know, the Amalekites came in and just wreaked havoc. And David began to seek God. God, what should we do? Should we pursue them? What should we do? He seeked out God, and God said, go pursue them. And they used some trash that the enemy discarded. There was a servant that got sick. He was too lame to continue. So instead of taking care of him, they threw him out like trash. And David caught up with him and gave him food and water. And that guy told David where to go, where they were going. And David went, and they fought them. They fought the Amalekites, and they recovered everything. They recovered all their women. They recovered their kids. They recovered their livestock, and they even recovered interest. Interest. Because they went back, and they took back what the enemy has stolen from them. And I challenge you to begin the process of taking back what the enemy has stolen from you, and that the joy of the Lord should overtake you. Folks, if you got any questions, my email is chrisbean, CHRISBEAN 74 at iCloud.com, chrisbean74 at iCloud.com. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm sorry we're out of time here on Freedom Fighters, and we thank you for joining us. God bless you.
Luke 4:18 Radio has been commissioned in these last days to preach Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who is the only name written under heaven by which men might be saved. Our mission is to teach and train up the body of Christ in the Great Commission, to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, to cast out evil spirits, pray over the sick, that they may be healed. For the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because He has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind. If this program is a blessing to you and you would like to take part in this end-time harvest of souls, join us by donating online. Go to www.luke418radio.com. God bless you.